I wish you guys good luck in your studies. Election day is November 6th. The deadline to register is October the 8th. You can register at the courthouse in your home county, or you can download the registration form from www.votenaturally.org. If you need to vote absentee, you can request your application for your absentee ballot now. The applications are available. In Union County, you can reach your county clerk, Shannon Phillips, at 864-1910. I'm going to give you back some time. Thanks.
Mr. Lindell, same question.
Would you repeat, please?
Yeah, is it important for students to vote and why?
The Green Party is about 20 years old in this country, about your age, and we realize that what decisions are being made are made by very old white guys with a lot of money, using up your resources and leaving your world dirty and poor. You look at the electric generation plant that's generating electricity for Texas because they didn't want that there, but they're quite willing to let all the mercury and other pollutants land in Arkansas. That's going to affect all of you. That's going to affect yourselves and your children. Us old folks ain't going to make a whole hell of a lot of difference. It's maybe going to make electricity cheaper in Texas for the old folks, but for you it's going to mean more health problems, more cost that way, more cost for your children and your children and their health problems. So if you don't want to get involved with politics at this point in your life, forget about the rest. Because the old white guys are going to make decisions for you that's going to affect you. Why not yourselves get involved in making those decisions for yourselves? And that's why it's important for you to be involved. The other thing that's happening is a concentrated effort to prevent students and minorities from voting. This is wrong. You should be standing up for your right to vote. Show up at the polling places. Vote. Make your voices heard.
Thank you. Same question to Mr. Ebart.
Well, you hear a lot from celebrities that you're supposed to go vote. A lot of people tell you that, go vote, go vote, go vote. But, you wonder why. And if you look at the older generation, they vote on a very consistent basis. And anytime one party, one major party or the other makes the older generation mad, they get scared to death because they know that the older people would go out there and vote them out. So if you go vote, then you're telling the politicians in power, I believe in this and not this. Vote totals do matter. Parties do pay attention to what their vote totals are. If they adopt a platform and their vote totals go up there and say, hey, that's a platform we like. So not only should you vote, you should pay attention to what you're voting for. You never want to vote for just one party. How many of you actually, think about how many of you actually know what the parties truly stand for, and how many of you just vote Democrat or Republican or Libertarian or Green because your parents did. If you don't do the research and you don't actually vote, you can't tell that party or the nation, this is how we believe, this is what we should do. That's it.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Cover, same question.
Obviously, the answer is yes, absolutely. Whether it's the decisions being made in Little Rock or D.C., there's no generation that faces the burden of those decisions more than ours. We have a $16 trillion national debt. Unfortunately, all that's being placed on our tab. Only 1 in 2 college graduates can find work since 2009 under this economy. Those decisions are affecting us. We owe it to ourselves, we owe it to our own future to let our voices be heard.
Okay. What is your party's position on education funding? And since this is a college campus, we're especially interested in federal funding for college grants and loans. I'm sure everyone in this audience can appreciate that. And we'll start again with Craig Griffin, Democratic Party.
Education is the single biggest thing an individual can do to advance their life in life. And we as a society should place education. We as a society should place education very high on our list of priorities. Almost 1/3 of all undergraduate students receive a Pell Grant or some form of federal funding. There's a young lady in Mesa, Arizona that I learned about recently named Kimberly Jenkins. A couple of years ago, Kimberly Jenkins was working. She was a soon-to-be single mother. lost her job. And she didn't know what to do. So she went to Mesa Community College to see if she could find some training or find a lead on, thank you. Kimberly went to Mesa Community College to see if she could find a lead on a job or help find some training. And she quickly learned that she couldn't afford to pay for classes at the community college. The financial aid office suggested that she apply for a Pell Grant. And today, Kimberly's on track to graduate with honors in May of 2013 from Mesa Community College. That's what the American Dream's about. Kimberly Jenkins is a single mom in Arizona, and like most of us, she doesn't expect to be rich or famous, but she does expect a good American living wage for a hard day's work. And a Pell Grant is helping her get that opportunity. Ideally, we would like to see more private investment, such as we see here at Union County. From Murphy Oil Corporation, South Arkansas Community College has a foundation, the El Dorado Education Foundation, the Leopard Challenge, and the list goes on and on. But until that day comes, the government should do what it can to help people educate themselves. America can't have a strong economy without a strong middle class. And we can't have a strong middle class unless our workforce is educated and prepared to compete in the global economy of the 21st century. Thank you.
Mr. Little, would you like me to repeat?
Now, education is, if education is so important, why are teachers paid a minuscule fraction of what bankers are paid? Think about that. We value money more than education. That says something fundamental to our country. We need to put a better emphasis, a bigger emphasis on education. We can give it all the lip service we want, but without the ability to make a living as a teacher, it really devalues education as a whole. Our presidential candidate has a Green New Deal program, Jill Stein, and her attitude is we need to increase, not decrease, the support of education by state and federal government. Right now, the state's share of university and community college funding has gone dramatically down, not up. What she proposes is free tuition, grades kindergarten through 16th grade, through college, public schools, because she feels that education is fundamental, that we need to do that in order to get an educated populace who can vote the right policies, who can understand through all the gobbledygook that these political candidates sputter out every 2 years. And this is what's going to make our country turn around, an educated population.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Ebar, same question.
Well, I have a little bit different view on it because I am a student like all of you. Except I go to college in Louisiana. Louisiana, we have this great program called TOPS, where basically the state of Louisiana, if you're fresh out of high school, you're going to college, TOPS pays your tuition. So basically all you're left with is the fees that the university gives you. And many universities will match you with a scholarship if you have good enough grades coming out of high school. So what I propose is that the federal government get out of education because we really don't have the money. We're $16 trillion in debt. We just don't have the money to be in education at the federal level. We have to let the states take care of education. And in Louisiana, at the college level, that's worked pretty well. They suck at the lower level, but we're not worried about that. At college level, you're doing pretty good with TOPS because you're just paying the fees that the college leaves you with. So that's one great example of if a state has control over education, what it can do with it. So think about it. What if the federal government was out of it and Arkansas had a similar program? You wouldn't be paying for tuition. You'd just be paying those fees that the college leaves you with.
Okay, Mr. Coker.
In 2008, President Obama made 3 promises to young Americans. The most notable is that he was going to make college education affordable to all. The fact of the matter is, the past 3.5 years alone, the average cost of in-state tuition on a college campus has risen by 25%. He's failed on his promise. Governor Romney wants to make education affordable to all Americans, no matter their age, through private sector involvement, just as the Murphy Foundation, things like that, that provides incentive-based funding for not only the school, but the students as well.
Thank you. What is your party's fundamental stance on social issues? And please speak specifically to gay marriage, abortion, and gun control. I think you're good here, correct? Begin, it's on. What was? Well, just,
Okay.
there you go.
Well, these issues get a lot of press. Special interest groups out there, they spend a lot of money trying to tie candidates to certain positions and to cause division among voters. The fact is, there are Democrats on the left, there are Democrats on the right. I can't do my right because I got a microphone in my hand. Most of these Democrats, most of the Arkansas Democrats that I know fall somewhere in the middle, just like I suspect most of you do. Arkansas Democrats are generally more conservative on social issues than the Democrats on the West Coast or up in the Northeast, who tend to be in the national spotlight. As you get ready for a general election coming up locally, I urge you not to get distracted from the successes we have seen through bipartisan cooperation, both locally and statewide, by these divisive tactics. Each candidate for office, and indeed each individual who calls themselves a Democrat, makes up their own mind where they stand on issues such as these. And we're back to the first question. You should vote. You should educate yourself about the candidates and not base your vote strictly on what some talking head or someone with a lot of money to waste is trying to lead you to believe. Especially in local elections, you should learn about each candidate from the candidate and not from what some outside group send to your mailbox or put on your TV. The fact is, since 2007, taxes in Arkansas have been cut by over $730 million. The annual savings from the reduction of the grocery tax alone is about $245 million for Arkansas taxpayers. Arkansas has announced over 28,000 new jobs during the worst economic time since the Great Depression, and our public K-12 education is now ranked 5th in the nation. All that's been done while balancing our budget. Governor Beebe and the Democrats in the legislature, along with Republicans across the board, and other parties have worked together to make this happen. Arkansas Democrats are more interested in electing leaders who can represent each other's opinions, put aside their differences, and produce results such as these than we are in focusing on those issues.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Lindell.
Green Party believes in individual rights very strongly. In the case of abortion, a woman's right to choose is basic. A woman should have the final say over what is done with her body, not a bunch of old guys sitting up in Washington or up in Little Rock. The woman has the final choice. On gay rights and gay marriage, I'm really surprised that the conservatives in this country are against marriage. Think about it. What's more fundamental than marriage? Why not a couple women, a couple guys getting married? I mean, that's upholding tradition. As far as gun rights, I can see the point of people who are paranoid about government taking over, that they need their guns, but the epidemic of gun deaths is horrendous in this country. It is horrendous. We have seen episodes almost weekly in this country, people taking out their frustrations by shooting other people. The thing about guns is, when you use them, you don't have to think once or twice before pulling that trigger. It just happens. But at that point, it's too late to go, whoops, I'm sorry. It makes a difference. We feel strongly about, again, individual rights and the ability of communities to provide for themselves. That's part of the green economic plan that Jill Stein's put across, but I'll get into that later. But on the basic issues, the social issues, we're pretty much solid on the individual freedoms.
Okay. And Mr. Eber.
The Libertarian Party strongly believes that you should do what you want to do. You have the right to make a choice. On abortion, there's two very distinct camps in the Libertarian Party. We have a pro-life faction, we have a pro-choice faction. The official stance of the party is pro-choice, but we do have a strong pro-life presence. On gay marriage, you should be allowed to marry whoever you want to. it's not the government's right to tell you who you can and cannot marry. It's with gun control, most people who, I might say most, many people who are the cause of gun-related deaths, they had that gun illegally. So you can take away guns from people who rightfully own them, but if somebody wants a gun bad enough, they're going to get a gun. One issue not touched upon that is not on this sheet, not in the question for social issues, is marijuana legalization. If you decide that you want to smoke marijuana, that is your decision. It's not the government's right to tell you that, well, this is so bad you can't do it. Because if that was the government's right, then why isn't alcohol illegal? If alcohol is legal, then why isn't marijuana legal? If tobacco is legal, why isn't marijuana legal?
Okay, thank you. Mr. Coburn.
Definitely not going to wait on the marijuana issue. Simply put, Arkansas Republicans stand with the overwhelming majority of Arkansans in believing that marriage is between one man and one woman. In 2004, Arkansan voters went to the ballot box and cast their vote for a constitutional amendment that would prohibit gay marriage, and 75% of Arkansans voted for that. We're the only party that believes that. Gun rights, you're not going to take my guns. We believe the founders were very on target when they said that each individual American has the right to bear arms and protect themselves and defend their family. As a Republican, I'm very proud that our party stands with the most innocent and defenseless, the unborn, in fighting for their rights so that they have a choice that they can make later down the road as an adult and be afforded the same opportunities and freedoms that we have.
Okay. Explain your party's position on the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act, which is commonly known as Obamacare. And we'll start with, probably appropriately enough, the Democratic Party and Mr. Craig Griffin.
Okay, look, the Affordable Care Act is probably not perfect. There's some things that we probably need to fix. But like most Americans, and I suspect like most of you, I haven't read the law, and my understanding of it is probably not completely thorough. But let me say this. There are those who will say that the Arkansas legislature voted in favor of Obamacare. There's people telling me, my friends around the state are telling me they're getting stuff in their mailbox saying this from some billionaires in Wisconsin or something like that. But the only bill in the Arkansas legislature that I can recall regarding the Affordable Care Act was a bill to set up a health care exchange here in Arkansas. The alternative to which, by federal law, was to participate in the exchange in Washington, D.C. Democrats in the Arkansas legislature didn't vote in favor of Obamacare. That vote happened in Congress. The Arkansas legislature voted in favor of Arkansans. We could run our own exchange. We don't need somebody in D.C. to do that for us. Here's the bottom line. In the United States of America, if an individual is sick, he or she should have access to the most advanced healthcare system history has ever known. Our current system is the best in the world as far as technology and healing the sick, but it's broken financially. It's not sustainable. I'm a small business owner right here in El Dorado. When my father bought the business that he now owns with my brother and I about 16 years ago, the monthly health insurance bill for all of his employees and all of their families was about $2,500. Today it's a little over $8,000. The company used to pay that fully, and now the employees have to share in that cost. It's not sustainable. It's got to be fixed. No doubt, there is no doubt we should reward doctors and nurses and other professionals who provide good care with good paying jobs. But we should also be focused on making sure that all Americans have access to those talented professionals and the treatments and cures that they can provide.
Okay, and that's time. Mr. Lindell comes out of the healthcare field himself.
The Affordable Care Act is a partial answer. It has some laudable ideas, no pre-existing conditions, allowing you, for instance, to be on your parents' policy, but it does not go far enough. What we need is Medicare for all. We can afford it. People complain about government waste, but Medicare has a 3% overhead. 3% overhead. Whereas the private insurance companies have between 20 and 35% overhead. Think about that. The Medicare system is already in place. We should be able to expand it to cover everyone, rather than giving guaranteed money to private insurance companies to run our healthcare system. It makes more sense, it's more humane to have Medicare for all than this fractured system, which still provides profits to these companies that have been making money hand over fist for many, many decades. We need to take the health of this population, the health of the people of Arkansas, the health of the people of America seriously. Most industrialized countries have a Medicare for all type system. And they also have higher health results than the American system. We are one of the sickest of the most industrialized countries. What is the reason? Because we pour so much money into the pockets of people making money off of our illnesses, not curing us. Thank you.
Mr. Ebar.
Well, the federal government, first of all, just needs to get out of healthcare. There's a whole lot of things wrong with healthcare and the laws governing it. If it was up to the Libertarian Party, healthcare laws would be moved to the state level, because a lot of people want to do a lot of things with healthcare, but the United States has 300 million people and a government that's $16 trillion in debt. Where are we going to get the money to do this? We just don't have it. We need to outsource it to the states and let the states govern healthcare. Because yes, there are a lot of sick people, but the federal government has 300 million people to worry about and a lot of other programs to worry about. And in regards to the Affordable Care Act, how many times in your life have you said, wow, the government runs that program really well? You never say that. No program the government's ever going to give you is going to be as well run as a private company. Now, the healthcare industry does need oversight, but not as much as the Affordable Care Act gives it. Let the states run healthcare and let it take care of its own people within its borders.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Covert?
First of all, the name is incredibly misleading. We can't afford this. This is not affordable. You go one step further, this is a job killer. That makes it bad for America, bad for Arkansas, most importantly, bad for you and me, college students about to graduate into the workforce. We can't afford this. This costs jobs. Small business owners can't afford this, are laying employees off, and are not hiring. Does healthcare need to be formed? Absolutely. But who believes that putting a government bureaucrat between me and my doctor is going to help fix healthcare? That's a joke. And just one more point I would make, I looked it up just a second ago. Arkansas Democrats did vote to implement Obamacare. House Bill 1226, voted on in Little Rock on March 29, 2011. They voted to implement it. And when the Supreme Court came down and said, you don't have to. Though it's constitutional, the states don't have to implement Obamacare, Medicaid expansion. You don't have to do it because we can't penalize you. Arkansas Democrats are still pushing forward with Obamacare.
Okay, this last one is a big one, so we'll give everybody 3 minutes to answer on this because this is a really layered question. And the question is, what does your party believe is the best way to stimulate the U.S. economy in 2012? And we'll begin with Mr. Griffin.
Well, there's no silver bullet. There's no soundbite answer, but I think we know what it takes right here in Union County, and I think we're doing it. We're working together, private and public groups, individuals, government, business. That beautiful building across West Avenue was the start of a lot of things that have been happening around here. There's a lot of good things happening because the leadership of this community decided several years ago that something had to be done, and they set about doing it. And that's what will bring about economic growth. Communities coming together, states building on that, and in turn the nation will prosper. There will be opportunities for the state legislature or those in Congress to throw us a bone every now and then and help us out along the way, but the most important thing is that we start at home. It's most important that we lean on one another. We be good neighbors and good stewards. A rising tide lifts all ships. No one individual No one act or measure has the ability to single-handedly get us back to where we want to be. But together, we can build the future that our children deserve. What worries me about economic recovery is that every man for himself mentality that I see from some groups. The Democratic vision is the opposite of every man for himself. The vision we have for our community, our state, and our nation is one of cooperation instead of alienation. Our vision is a society that provides opportunities to those that want to capitalize on it. People like Kimberly Jenkins and people like you will stimulate our economy if we choose to give them the opportunity. The alternative could very well be the old golden rule. He who has the gold may make the rules.
Mr. Lindell?
One big problem we have is assuming all the problems come from D.C., Washington, D.C. The first thing we need to remember is Arkansas is a net recipient of federal funds. In other words, the federal government gives us back more money than we put into federal taxes. So saying, for instance, that every state should sink or swim on their own, Arkansas would be several feet under the surface if that were true. The reality is that we need the federal government to provide a lot of the funds that we need to do things. Like, I just came down 167. A lot of that is built not from state funds, but from federal funds. Therefore, when you say we can exist alone from the morass, the federal government, that doesn't work that way. Green Party is pushing for investment in green jobs. They complain, for instance, again, the coal-fired plant for generating electricity, that we shouldn't have to put pollution control devices on those things. First of all, pollution control devices can create jobs. Without pollution control devices, of course, we don't have as many people to worry about because they're dying of all the poisoning. That's one way to cut the budget. The point is we need to look at the whole picture, not who's making the profit. We need to know who's going to live in this country in 20 or 30 years. Are they going to be healthy, or are they going to be only the wealthy ones? This is what we need to look at. Most of the programs that are put forth by politicians look at the short vision. They don't look at the long look. What's going to happen down the road? We can push for energy independence, but in 50 years, there won't be any oil left here in this country. We'll be over a barrel trying to buy oil from other countries. Let's look at the real mix of energy sources in this country and use them. We got to build for tomorrow, not for today's profits. And this is where the Green Party takes a dramatic step away from these other parties. I implore you to look at Jill Stein's Green New Deal proposal. I'll have copies up front after the discussion. It goes into great detail, and this is just the summary. You can look it up online. One of the other things I mentioned are the fact check sites online, factcheck.org, Washington Post, and there's another one there. The point is, when these people get up and make political statements, you need to find some place that have more resources than you to check to see if they're telling the truth.
Okay.
Check those places.
Okay. And that's time. Mr. Ebar, same question, 3 minutes.
Well, there's a lot of things that are said that we can do this to create jobs, we can do this to keep jobs from being destroyed or taken away or shipped overseas. But there's something that's not talked about very often in a lot of libertarian circles that's talked about. And that's, let's improve our education system. There's a big shortage of jobs in a lot of vocational fields, such as AC repair people, AC and heating repair people, plumbers, electricians. They charge high prices because there's not many of them. A lot of kids come out of high school and it's either go work or go to college. a lot of them don't know that you can go to vocational school, you won't spend as much time there, you won't spend as much money there, and you can get a good paying job. Let's send a lot of our people back to school, to vocational school, and then the cost of living will come down because there's more electricians. The few electricians out there can't charge as much. So it's a two-pronged approach. It creates jobs, lowers the cost of living. Now, there's another thing that you can do, and Republicans say it all the time, and it's cut regulation, and that works. Regulation takes time and money to enforce and make sure that you're up to standard with it. So let's cut regulation, and let's put our people back to work by sending them back to school.
Okay, thank you. And our last, Mr. Covert.
You know, there's, the U.S. House of Representatives is controlled by Republicans after 2010. And the Senate is controlled by Democrats, so obviously there's some gridlock there. But the one thing that should unify us as Americans is the fact that our neighbors, our cousins, our moms and dads don't have jobs. The United States House of Representatives, under Republican leadership from Speaker Boehner, and many of the three of our representatives from here in Arkansas, have passed 50 jobs bills. 50 different pieces of legislation has made its way through the House that would create private sector jobs just like that. It is dead on arrival when it gets to the Democrat Senate. So in Arkansas, we don't have a Senate race this year. It's not up until 14. But around the country, there's Senate races that Republicans and conservatives need to be elected to pass those 50 jobs bills. You know, President Obama has enacted tax after tax, regulation after regulation, squandering any hope for a small business owner to create a new job, or create a new position, or give employees pay raises. So simply put, we have to elect a new Senate, and we definitely have to elect a new president.
Okay, that's all the questions that we have for you today. We do thank all of you very, very much for coming. I know some of you came quite a distance to be here today. And also remember that you will have a chance to vote in our mock election, SouthArk's mock election on October 25th next month. And obviously it's not the real election, but we'll get a good idea of who SouthArk students favor for president. And all four of these parties will be represented on that mock election ballot. So if something that any of these men said today struck a chord with you, you can voice that on our mock election and also in the actual election in November.